A supply chain is a series of processes and activities that flow across a range of different businesses and integrate to produce and distribute products and services for consumers. And these supply chains exist only because of customer demand.
And what is demand? Simply put, it indicates the need for a product or service. Every aspect of business planning, from purchasing materials to planning manufacturing delivery, hinges on successfully understanding your customers' demands. And one needs to understand this demand in order to forecast it.
Using the time series technique, one can see that there are different components or demand patterns that need to be considered. Firstly, we have trends. Here, the general pattern of demand will change over a longer period of time, with either a general increase, decrease, or with a stable shape.
Secondly, cyclicity. Cyclical demand shows wave-like patterns which take place over several years. The cycle is a repetition of trends in certain time periods, maybe a quarter growth.
Seasonality. Here, observations and patterns occur over a shorter time frame, such as days, weeks, or months, but always within a 12-month cycle. These seasonal demands can be caused at different times of the year, for example, special religious observations such as Eid al-Adha.
And lastly, randomness. This refers to unexpected events that can distort trends that otherwise exist, such as natural disasters, perhaps changing the demand for bottles of water, or an outbreak of a disease increasing demand for certain medication.
You get two different types of demand, namely independent demand, such as the order for 100 cars, and dependent demand, such as needing to order 5 tires per car, so you'd have to order 500 tires. Therefore, the tires are dependent on the amount of cars that are being ordered.
Demand comes from different sources, such as replenishment of warehouses, sales forecasts, customer orders, spares required for servicing equipment, and call of components from other plants.
Most products used in the house, like dishwashing liquid, have a pretty stable demand pattern, whilst the demand patterns for things like shoes are less predictable. These are known as dynamic demand.
So of course, demand planning is very important. Demand planning is completed in 4 steps as a continuous process. 1. Aggregate customer forecasts, planned orders, and backlog, which account for the total demand over the planning horizon. 2. Review and build a draft demand plan under the demand time buckets. 3. Communicate the demand plan. 4. Review the scenarios in an executive meeting.
We do aggregate planning because it's easier to forecast the expected monetary value of total vehicle sales in a country for the next year than to forecast car sales by each auto manufacturer and then add them up. The monetary value is the sum of, or the aggregate, of all expected motor vehicle sales based on inputs such as inflation, economic growth, and consumer earning levels, etc.
Remember too that products have a life cycle, which typically ranges over 4 stages. 1. Launch, also known as introduction. 2. Growth, where the sales rise. 3. Maturity, growth slows and levels off. 4. Decline, sooner or later sales will fall.
With all this in mind, focus is needed on planning. One objective of planning is to predict the future as accurately as possible, to match resources as closely as possible.
And planning horizons are used to manage the various levels of planning. Another view to the planning process is the amount of interference that a production schedule can accommodate without it falling apart. These time fences are referred to in terms of the frozen period, the slushy period, and the liquid period.
In the frozen period, the schedule is set and no changes should be made. In the slushy period, the schedule can be changed, but not without consequences to other scheduled jobs. And in the liquid period, no production has yet been scheduled and the plan can be manipulated at will.
An excellent way of looking at the planning elements is to use the planning hierarchy as illustrated in your practitioner guide. Understanding the components and nature of demand helps us to create planning information that meets the ultimate goal of satisfying customers' demand.